You're glowing.
So glad.
That's funny. Okay, cool. Are you all set?
I think I am.
Okay, let me just plug myself in here. And okay,
All right.
shall we begin?
We shall begin.
All right, so why don't you kick us off, Virginie, or Virginia in English, and tell us about yourself. Just introduce yourself to everyone who's watching.
Well, in case a lot of people will be watching, hello everyone. My name is Virginie. I am French originally. I've lived quite a few years in the US. And I have moved back about 12 years ago, and I live right next to the Swiss borders. And I've been working in Geneva for 12 years now, doing a lot of different things. And the key word here is a lot of different things, which has led me to meet Cindy. And now I have managed to be more focused on my activity now, which is to be a child's right advocate. And I've been involved in this field for quite a few years, but it's only recently with the work I've done with Cindy that I've discovered that this was the path I wanted to definitely continue to work in.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk more about that. Okay, I think that, well, first of all, I have to say, alors tu parles un peu de français, et moi aussi je parle un peu de français. I'll just kind of sprinkle that in there. That's all I've got, Virginia, though. So we'll stop.
Sounds perfect.
Not bad, right?
Not bad at all. With the Quebec accent, l'accent québécois, très bien.
Yeah. My Quebec accent pops out when I talk a little bit of French. So
it does. It's nice.
Yeah, not bad.
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about this world of advocacy. And you mentioned, child's rights more specifically as your area that you focus on and your area of expertise. So what is that all about? Like, what kinds of organizations or kinds of work is involved with that?
Okay, well, I guess to start off, my interest in working with kids began when I was teaching. I taught for 7 years in the US. So I started off as a high school teacher. And when I came back to Europe, things shifted quite a bit. And I was no longer working with kids at the time being when I started to be active again in Switzerland, in Geneva. And I knew I wanted to go back to it. And one encounter after another, I met the president of an NGO here working to protect kids who had been sexually abused. And somehow I got really involved in there. I didn't think this would be a specific field I would get into, but somehow I felt quite passionate about it, and then I continued my studies in it. And one thing led to another, and I ended up staying 7 years as a volunteer, though, being in charge basically of allowing this NGO to gain more visibility in the Geneva area. I also helped to run different camps, summer camps for kids as well. I participated to some fundraising campaign, doing some also networking to create some different relations between different professionals in Geneva, and basically that's something that I've really enjoyed doing that. I mean, I've enjoyed both doing what I was doing and also working for kids. And this is something that somehow I was doing still on the side, even though it was taking quite a lot of time for me since I was doing another job along with it. And at one point, I just realized that it was very difficult as well, in the sense that being passionate about something that you do basically after work hours or in the weekend, and having to do your day job. And at one point, I think you can only do that so long. And that's pretty much what happened when we met. I was at that point where something had to happen to change, to become more concrete. And that's pretty much what happened in that regard, working with kids.
Right. Really interesting. It's, really important work, that impacts people at a very personal level. And, I think it's the type of work that you have to really be drawn to, and not everyone can do that kind of work. So, so I just want to acknowledge you, first of all, very, very honestly, very genuinely for what you do, for what you do for kids out there who need support and have been through some challenging times. It makes a difference.
Well, thank you for saying this, but also I also believe that there's some issues, some battles, and I think we can all pick some. True. This is one I found that I can pick, not for any specific reason. I mean, I don't necessarily relate personally to this matter. It's just something I realized little by little that I can take it.
Yeah.
If I had to pick any other battle, which I would love to, because I can easily go on to a lot of battles, the forest deforestation and the animals, and I'd sign for them all, but I don't think I would do a very good job, because animals, there are some I just can't. I'm not equipped to handle it, and other people are. And so I think it's great at some point if we manage to figure out at least what we can stand and what we can actually do something about.
Right. Yes. It's true. We all can do our part, right?
We can do our part.
Absolutely. Awesome. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's, you kind of hinted to this a little bit a moment ago, but let's talk about, kind of what was going on with you professionally at the time that our paths crossed. We actually, I think, connected maybe almost a year before we actually started working together. So maybe just share with us what was going on with you at that time.
Well, actually, I must admit that I need to go back the year before, because truly something started really there. A year before we met and started working, I knew I was slowly but surely shifting to something different. Something was going to change. Something, I was not exactly happy at my job. I was working as an admission officer, counselor in a small international university, American university here in Geneva. It was a dead-end job. Basically, I love working. There were kids, so that part was actually contained, but I knew it wasn't going to last. I'd been there 4 years. And I started looking at different things, and a lot of different things. And I don't even know if I type coaching or how to change your career or something like this. And it led me to one of your, I'm not sure it was your website, but some, maybe a video or something, just. And I watched it or read, and because the whole thing about coach, there's so many coaches. It's how do you choose a coach? I was lost at sea. I wasn't even thinking I would ever even get to that point, to be honest.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there was something that you said, it got my attention, and I let it there. And then I think I signed up for your newsletter. And I kept receiving them, which I was happy to receive, and I read a little bit, and I liked what I saw. But one day, I think you asked a question, and we could answer it.
Right.
And I like to write, as you know.
Virginia writes very long emails. What I appreciate, though, I appreciate you very.
Thank you.
So yeah, you did reply.
I did reply once, and I was expecting some sort of mass message to a lot of people, but you replied personally, and this I did not expect. And it just showed me that right away you had a specific way to deal with people who were asking for your help on a very personal level, and that's something to me that really struck a chord big time. And I think then maybe 6-7 months went by in between, because I think you even answered asking me a question, and I don't think I replied. I'm the one who did not reply.
You did not, actually.
I did not reply.
That was okay.
I'm so sorry. I can reply.
Okay. No problem.
I did not reply.
For it since then. That's okay.
We did. And so no, I did not reply. And but I kept receiving the newsletter, and then I got in the situation where I ended up leaving my job, and in very specific situation, but it was at a crossroad of many parts in my life at the same point. And you offered, I think, via again an email that all of your contacts had a 1 hour one-on-one Skype call.
Yes.
And I thought, I'm signing up. I'm signing up. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And we had this very memorable, I
Oh,
mean, it was
yes.
very memorable.
Yes.
1 hour sign up, and that's basically how we got to
Mm-hmm.
work.
Yes.
So the question was how to define my with my professional life at that moment.
Yeah. Like what were you really struggling with, that made you think, you know what, let me sign up for this, let me explore it and get some support.
Okay. Well, I basically I was most definitely at a crossroad,
Mm-hmm.
and all I knew is that I wanted things to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen a clear pattern in my professional life that was repeating
Mm-hmm.
itself over and over, and it was truly getting me nowhere.
Right.
But I had no idea on the other side how to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I admitted that I needed some help. Now, who could help me? How could you help me? How could anyone help me? That I didn't have the answer, but
Right.
I wanted things to change. And I
Mm-hmm.
told you, I remember exactly that question. What's the thing you fear the most?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, and that still is the case today, the thing I fear the most is for things to not change at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And fear was a big factor in the whole equation of
Yeah.
everything that was happening to
Yeah.
me at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like we'll talk about that fear factor in just a second, because I have a very clear memory of that conversation. So we'll dig into that in just a second. But I want to learn a little bit more about the patterns. So you said that you were in a bit of a you were seeing a pattern that was repeating for yourself professionally. And one of the things I remember as part of that was, and you hinted to this earlier as well, was the many different things. You had done many different things, and I think was kind of searching for the thing that was going to stick. Was
Yeah.
that part of the pattern that you were seeing?
Yes, it was. I even though I've lived in three different countries and done different things, but the opportunity. I can't complain. The opportunities have come to me, but I have not chosen them really.
Right.
And just because I'm the kind of person who's I'm interested in a lot of things, and I was never able to want to choose or to know myself well enough or to trust myself well enough to go into the path I if I had known better, I would know would match me very well.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that just led me to take on jobs that just presented themselves, and I was lucky enough to be okay to do the job I was supposed to do at the time being. But me inside, it was not a full match. It was never a full match, and sometimes it was clearly not a match at all. I had no business being where I was doing what I was doing. I was horrible at it. This is not me.
Right.
But I only learned and figured it out once I was there, and by the time it was to change. So every 4 or 5 years, basically, that's the pattern. Except perhaps the first 7 years in the US. I mean, I taught in 2 different high schools. It was 7 years of clear teaching, doing the same activity, which is it's the longest, I guess. But then it was 3 years here, 4 years there of teaching again, working in a event company, in a legal department of a bank, doing admissions in a university, and basically organizing trips in a school in Spain.
Right.
And the only long activity I stayed in for which I wasn't paid and for which I felt I really corresponded was that NGO work I was doing as a volunteer. So
yeah. It sounds like what I remember of it. It was that they're, and individually they're not bad jobs, but to tie them all together, like there wasn't really a story. And to your point as well, I think that you were making career choices without intention. Just kind of what
exactly
planned. You'd say, okay, cool, I'll go do that. Let me go do that. right?
But I could do that, and I did that. At first it was okay, but the problem I realized afterwards, I could never invest myself truly in there, because every time I would work in this job, because it was not intentional enough, as you say, I knew in a way that I was not always going to stay there. I was waiting for the next best thing. I was waiting for the job, but what was the job?
Right.
I could not say what it was. Basically, my whole career was just a big puzzle with a lot of different pieces, and I'm not even sure if we put them together, it wouldn't make one same image. That's the worst part.
You got two pieces from this puzzle over here, a couple from that puzzle. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So we can laugh at it now, as I know it was tough for you at the beginning.
It was.
Yeah, I know it was really hard. And so if we kind of fast forward a little bit to that conversation that you and I had, where what I remember about it was that it was really, really hard. Like, you had a lot of, I think, internal struggle for you to say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So maybe talk to us about what you experienced in that moment of, do I not get help? Do I get help? Do I not get help? Do I get help? What was that like for you?
Well, this was all tied up with the fact that I've pretty much lived my whole life based on education and values that you have to save, you have to be careful, you have to plan for the future, you have to be very savvy and not take some risks that are not well planned, and that's pretty much the whole attitude I've never really taken a risk. I mean, never really. And the big risk to me that I associated with signing up with you at that time was for me on the financial level. And in a way, I'm so glad of course, that would be for a later question, but I am so glad I managed to override this, because it is part of the whole experience, even. Yeah, it is. Even if you would do this without this type of contract or for free, it would not impact us the same way at all.
No, the investment makes you step up as well.
Exactly, yeah. Yes. And so that was part of the whole package, and it had to be this way. Yeah. And so for people who have a hard time making decisions, which is also something I get. So there's this, and there's and a bit scared and wondering, is this the right thing? Should I do this? But gosh, if I do that, then basically it was signing up to trust you and to trust ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
And that's a big leap of faith in that sense. And for people w'ho've never done this before, well, that's it's a pretty big step.
It is, absolutely.
Even though we know it's the right step, but it's a big step.
Yeah. And what would you say got you to actually do it finally?
Because I was in a situation where I'm fortunate enough to afford something like this, even though it's it's a special service that not everyone can do this. But then the thought of signing with everything that goes with it was a lot more appealing to me than the thought of saying, well, sorry, but let's just not do that. And this was, I was more petrified about letting go of this opportunity than letting go of or handling that fear at that moment. Right. Yeah. Not going on with your program, which I really liked. I mean, it's that, of course, as well. That meant a lot. But there's one thing also in particular that you said that really got me to really move forward is there are a lot of people who are very pushy and try to persuade you, a typical salesperson, and I abhor this. I do not like this at all. And you are everything but this. And except, I mean, on top of things, at one point you just said, well, I remember, if we're not ready to work with you, well, no, we're not here to waste anybody's time. So we need to be ready, and that's that. But you offer us the chance
Right.
to decide if we're ready or not. And at that moment, I knew I was ready for what, I'm not sure, but I knew I was ready for something.
Right.
And I thought that, okay, well, you know what? I think that's it. Let's just, let's do it.
Awesome. I'm so excited. That's so good. It's so good because I think a lot of people, a lot of women really struggle with that, really, really struggle with, taking the chance, even though, again, it's the right thing for you. It's not even about me at the end of the day. It's really about what's right for you and what will take you from where you are to where you want to be, from this place of doing work and having careers and jobs that just don't really fit, and continuing to do that for the next 20 years versus taking a couple of months to focus, to pause, to get really real about what's working, what's not working, and to go in a new direction. Right?
Yeah, but
it can be scary.
It is, because also the thing that we can't really anticipate is that it's not just a journey on trying to get a new career. It's a journey on figuring ourselves better. I mean, it's a double discovery.
Totally.
And I mean, the person I was 6 months ago is another person, and she was nice and everything, but I'm happy she's not here anymore. Sorry, but I mean, with reason, but it's a different ball game. It's another dimension, and it's another level.
Yeah, totally. That's a really great way of describing it.
Yeah. And it's hard to know, and it's hard to see to that extent when on day one we don't see it at all. I mean, I honestly, I never thought it would get that far.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
But I think when I look back to you and your situation and our conversations along the way, and when I see you today as well, to me, one of the things that really made a difference for you was, two things. One is like trusting yourself, like really listening to what was important for you at that time and just kind of pushing through that fear. And, it took a bit of time to work through that, but that's okay. But the point is that you got to work your way through that. Otherwise nothing's going to change. Right.
Yeah. And that is not, this wasn't acceptable. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Proud of you. It's so good. It's so good. So let's kind of talk for a second about where you are today. And when you think about that version of yourself a matter of months ago to how you feel today, how would you describe those two images of yourself?
Well, today I know in which direction I want to go. I have a clear vision of how I could see my day-to-day in an office doing what. Granted, I want to remain flexible about it. I'm not, but if someone asks me, I can answer basically, which I was not able to do really before.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the process of looking for a job. At the moment, even though there are things that opportunities that have appeared, and it's gonna in a few months, I think maybe I'm gonna have to make a decision or from now start deciding in which direction I'm wanting to go. And I've entered that period of time where networking basically. That's the I need to network. I'm getting there.
You are doing it.
I'm doing it. Yeah, I am. Actually, I am. It's and this also it's something that I would have felt petrified before, but now I'm excited about it. And it doesn't mean that everyone will be sure. Come on in. It doesn't have to be easy, but just the idea of doing something new. This is interesting and exciting to me, which is it's a completely new feeling as well. And it's not something to be done just now. It's something that you keep for later. So I don't see this as just a part of this process for the job search. It's something that you continue to do even afterwards. So
100%.
It's a very concrete part of the work we had to do, but that's exciting to do. So.
It is. I would describe you like before you were just fearful, I think, fearful and small. And now, like, I see you as, as excited, as courageous, as curious, and willing to take the steps forward to get what you want.
Yeah.
To me, it's a night and day comparison to before and after. And I hope you see that in yourself as well. And
I do
good.
actually.
Good. Awesome.
I felt that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, good. So let's talk about the coaching process. So you and I started working together one-on-one, and then partway through our one-on-one work, I launched my group program, Ideal Career Academy. So offered that to you and invited you into that as well. And so maybe talk about just your overall experience with being coached. Like, what was that like for you?
Well, it's a very good feeling to know that you have someone supporting you in such a period of time where pretty much you feel as lost as you could ever feel.
Yeah.
Basically. And I liked. Well, we met every week.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Yes, Kat, we met every week, and I was very busy. I mean, I had a lot to do. I mean, then of course I think you can also do as much as you want to put in the work that you request, but it's very concrete work, and that I really appreciated this. I mean, where there are discussions which could take the turn they had to take at the time, and so this was very nice as well to have that flexibility. But the homework then that I had to do is very concrete, very on the spot, and this helps a lot. It helped a lot. It was a nice mix, basically, to me. And basically, just the way it was, the different steps. First, work on ourselves, basically, to try to figure out who is going to do that work and where are we going, or who's going where, basically. We worry about the where afterwards, but who is the person who's going. And it made sense. It's easy for us to understand where we're going in a way. I think it was. I really enjoyed the structure of it. I mean, I'm sensitive to that as well. Yeah. Plus, you as the human side and the concrete, down to earth side. So that was. I really like that.
Okay, cool. And what would you say, Virginia, was one of the biggest either learnings that you had, or one of the things that really stuck out for you? What would that be?
Well, there were two things, I'd say.
Okay.
I'm not forgetting all the others, but there are two that I'm thinking of right now.
Okay.
Well, first, one of the big thing I learned was, it's actually something you said that I didn't know before, that you as a person and your professional life, you cannot separate them.
Right.
It's not the you at home and you do what you do, and you at work and you do what you do at work. It's the same person at the same time.
Yep.
And this, I'd never thought, I didn't know. As strange as it might sound. And that was it got me thinking a whole lot, because it made complete sense.
Yeah.
And basically the second peak moment, that's a big one. There's a test that we did, basically. And God knows I love those tests. All the tests I can take, big ones, small ones, medium ones, in depth, superficial, I take them all.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But this one, basically, I learned that day that all those traits of character, of personality that I had, I'm not even using the word skills because it's too advanced in that sense, but all those qualities, those traits turned out to be qualities. And I thought my whole life they were useless parts of me that could not be used in the professional setting. And I discovered that day that not only was I wrong the whole time, but they're going to be very useful. Yes. And now they've become my strength, and I'm using them concretely on day to day. And these very points are what makes me feel strong and trusting myself when I go out there on top of things. Yes. And this was huge. It was huge, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, like, it was almost like you learned what makes you tick. You know, how why do I do what I do, and realizing that it's not a bad thing. It's actually very advantageous. Knowing that, being able to articulate it, and then building it into a resume, building it into an interview, all of the practical things around job search. But even before getting to the job search, I think I saw you almost like a bit of acceptance, like, this is how I am.
Yeah, actually, yes.
And it's actually a really good thing,
yes,
know?
And
That's huge.
Yeah, it was. First learn about it.
Yeah.
And then learn to like it, because there's nothing to dislike about it.
Yep.
And 2, transform it. And 3, transform it into your strength that you actually can put on a resume, which,
right.
I mean, I don't even know how to explain that process, but I mean, it's that's what happens, and I'm sure it's something that would happen with anyone who would follow that process. That's how it works. That's how it works.
Absolutely. And to me, I know that you were searching for what is that job, that fit for me. And the place really to start is you have to understand yourself. You've got to understand what you bring to the table, and then, add the work on top of that. So what work based on who I am is a good fit for me. And I think that's how we got to the whole field or profession of advocacy being your place.
Yes, actually.
Right? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think it was there all along, but it was not something that I felt I could take seriously, because it was just something almost on the side. Yeah. But no, it doesn't. No, it's not on the side. It's something to be taken seriously, because that's me. That's the person I am, and that's definitely what I want to do.
Yeah. That's so good, because you couldn't say that at the beginning.
No, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Even though it was there all along, now you're able to connect those dots in a way that gives you even greater confidence than you had at the beginning. And as you continue to go through your job search and your networking and interviews, like that will just get stronger and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So good. Okay, cool. Awesome. And what do you think, Virginia, made you successful through the program? Like I would say that I've loved working with you. We still work together, and it's a lot of fun for me. And I think that you bring some really positive things to the table as far as just who you are. But I'd love to get your perspective on why do you think that you were successful in making your way through the program in the way that you have?
Well, for one, I knew this was a good thing for me. I trusted it. First thing, I trusted the program.
Yep.
Second, I would say I had the liberty to spend a lot of time and work at it. I mean, I was not doing any other activity at the time being, that, or at least not something that would take me from 8 to 5 hour day job. And 3, I had no intention in cheating myself.
Right. Oh, that's so powerful. Awesome.
Absolutely not. At times I know I did not do as well as I could have. I had at times things went a bit up sometimes and a bit low sometimes. I was fast at some moments and was not as responding as fast as I could have. And other times I remember. But I was aware of it, and you adjusted it to it as well. That's something there's a very fine line between being pushy and being supportive. And the whole time, that's what you were, supportive.
Right.
And so that is, I think it's just a fine mix in what we both bring to the table. Really, it's successful because there are 2 elements. I mean, there's what you require of us through the exercises and the involvement, personal involvement and thinking, and then there's how much we want to put in it. But there has to be a real match in there as well.
Yep.
So I think that the program it's solid, and there's a real level of flexibility on your part, and then it's just up to us how much we want to put in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can go fast, and sometimes it can go slow, and sometimes it just depends.
Yep. Absolutely.
But if we're honest, just honest, and we have to be honest. That's all. That's one of the main things. Just being honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's something that you did really, really well. And that made my job as a coach, like being able to get into those things that were stopping you, the roadblocks, the blind spots, was that you were super, super open to being coached. To hearing the truth, even though it's not always easy to hear, but being open and receptive to hearing those things and seeing things about yourself, those patterns and habits that we talked about at the beginning, that to me is something that makes the world of difference. Because if you're not open to seeing that, then it's going to be really hard to progress in the way that you have. So I acknowledge you for that as well. And, like you did the work, even in the times that you might call slow, like you were always thinking about it. You were super curious. You always wanted to learn more. You leaned in as much as I did, and you met me at least at the halfway point, which I can't ask for more than that. So know that, my job is I provide the structure, the support. I challenge you. I push you to places maybe that you probably wouldn't go on your own.
Absolutely.
I can't do that on my own. So it truly is a partnership, and one doesn't work without the other. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So kind of on that note, like, how would you be kind now, Virginia? How would you describe me, as a coach, and what parts of that coaching relationship really worked well for you?
I guess anything I want. Well, there's definitely a lot to say. I'm very sensitive to the new people I meet, and one of my qualities I found out, as you know, it's clear. I mean, I see very, very quickly if things connect or don't, and I think you probably have this, maybe most likely as well.
I do.
And there's something that connected right away. And even through the email exchange I went before, was the fact that you are honest as well. You're upfront and honest, and that's something to me and authentic. And these three things put together, to me, that's the base. There was the absolute base. I don't think for me as a person it could not have been something else. That would once I figured these 3 points, that would allow me to go further with you, and then work as we went along. I'm the kind of person that needs to be coached quite closely. I mean, a very short time frame, as you knew more than I did, and that's what you did. But I appreciate also like I said, I find it to be very flexible,
right,
and extremely intuitive. And the thing that I really appreciate is that you manage to decipher the things that we have no way of understanding in ourselves. We just know we have an impression or a thought or an emotion or something. It can be anything, and there's no way we can translate it. I mean, that's how I felt. And nearly almost every time, with no fail, you can put a word on it and translate it to something that makes sense, that we can understand, and move forward with that. And so the word coaching, it's coaching in a great sense, because it's yes, there's the very concrete professional aspects, but it's a greater experience in a way. You have this ability as well to see a bigger picture and adjust it to the person, if we can take it, if that's what we need. Because if it isn't, you just don't go there. You see this very clearly as well. And like you mentioned earlier, if you see that the door is opened and you can push a little bit further the discussion and challenge a little bit more and say a little bit differently what that thing that's very hard to hear, well, you just go do it. without hesitation. And it is great. And it is great. That's how we move forward. We move forward very fast.
Yeah, true. And
if we choose to, because
yes.
you have this ability to adjust to the exact same speed that we will choose to go.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't go slower, you don't go faster. We choose the speed and you just go right along with it. And that's it's quite it was quite, some moments it was very impressive. I was impressed, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate those kind words, and thank you for saying that. And you know, it's not about saying great things about me. It's really about helping people to see and understand what that coaching process and experience can be like.
Can be, yeah.
And understanding again that it takes two. It definitely takes two, but my role as a coach is one to help pull you forward. You know, to continuously pull. Come on, let's keep going, right? And continue to pull you forward to the place that you have told me you want to go.
Oh, well, that's and the thing is, it's not just the place where you want to go. At the end of the day, it becomes also the person you want to be.
Yeah, totally.
And I must admit that the change that I've gone through this past 6 months are more impressive in my eyes than the changes I've gone through the many years before. But it's this period of my life it is something that it's incredibly special, and I've never experienced this before.
Oh, that's nice. It's awesome.
And that's part of the whole. And granted, the main objective is to get a job. Yes, absolutely. It's a reconversion, changing direction and everything. But this could not be possible. It could have not been possible for me without going through this as well.
Right.
Some other people, maybe it is, and that's the thing. Yeah. But for those who need also to reinvest themselves and reevaluate how they fit, how they think, even about themselves, that's going to be part of the process, whether they want it or not.
Right. True. 100%.
And you allow something like this to happen, and so
yeah, there was enough said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really I think insightful and helpful for other folks who are watching this to really understand, you know, what the potential looks like at the end of the process, and getting through that. It's possible to get through it, and at the other side, you know, you can look at someone like yourself, Virginie, and see, you know, from where you were to where you are today, it literally is night and day.
It is night and day.
Literally is night and day.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm curious. I know you're in job search mode right now and doing your networking and all of that, exploring different opportunities that have come your way, and just, you know, getting clear on which one you really want to pursue. So I'm interested to hear, like, how do you feel about your potential in the future and where you could see yourself going? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, for one, I feel confident. I don't know exactly when it will happen, but I have a list of people I need to talk with, and I've contacted some of them as well, and most of them are either directors of or head of departments or CEOs or there.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I had to contact them before, I probably would have, but feeling quite unsure of myself. And now I'm excited to go there, and I know we'll have a solid conversation. And this is a part of the result of the work we did. So I'm excited to go ahead and meet these people.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to ask them for a job, but just to start a conversation and just get some advice, because I'm still at that stage where since I'm going to have to decide maybe between two directions, I want to evaluate and get some advice from professionals who've been there.
Yes.
And then see what's the best choice. So and the other thing also is I see the way they look at me also. It's the way they listen to what I have to say. It's changed as well. It's I feel more solid, but I think they see someone solid as well.
Right.
When I look at them looking at me, it's it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It's good to be in that situation and to have this kind of feedback that you can see if you're sensitive to it. But if you look a little bit, you can see this type of things.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win, really. Everybody's in a good place.
Everybody's happy. That's so good.
It's that's the process right now, basically.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to see what's next for you, and I can feel your enthusiasm. I can feel you being inspired, and there's only great things. Part of what makes my work as fulfilling as it is I can help you to find your way, and then you can go do your thing. And how many people can you impact, especially in a field like that you've chosen?
Yeah.
If I can do a little piece to help you get the clarity, figure out what you want, what you're really good at doing, how to position yourself, how to brand yourself, how to have those conversations. And that opens a door for you that you can walk through confidently, and feel like you're ready to take on that challenge, and then go do your work. Oh my goodness. Like, what else is possible? What else is possible? So, that for that, I thank you for allowing me to be part of your experience, part of your journey, and just a dot on your path. So thank you for that.
But if you thank me, I have to thank you first. I have to be the first one to thank you. No, please, I insist.
Let me thank you. It goes hand in hand, right? We thank each other.
There you go.
Really good. Okay. All right. So let's see. I would ask you as well as kind of summarize this conversation. If you were talking to someone who was considering, coaching overall, considering me as a coach, and they're just not sure, same way you were just a few months ago, what advice would you give them, looking backwards now? What would you tell them?
Well, I will tell them to really be sure of what they're afraid of first.
Mm-hmm.
Just if they can identify this, because that's the main block, I think.
Yeah.
And second, what's the risk? At the end of the day, what's the risk?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The risk is nothing would happen, and no one wants this, because once we get in that situation, it's because we want something
right
to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just have to take a leap of faith, because we can anticipate what's going to happen. So I really hope that this little message in a way would help, because sometimes you just have to trust or hear at least what someone else is saying, even though they may question, but that could not happen to me. Well, you will never know if you don't try.
Right. Very true. Who are you giving advice to people right now? Come on. That's awesome. I love it. That's so good. So good.
That's true.
Good. That's really, really good. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to see, where you are today. I think it's really inspiring. And, is there anything else, just before we close off this conversation, that you want to say about your own journey, about the process, anything that you want to share before we wrap things up?
Well, the key word, the journey. I thought for a long time it was only about what's coming and what's there, but it's the journey. So this whole month, this whole process of doing some work, of taking the time, of thinking, and when we know that the goal is to have a job, or to change the career, or to send this resume, well, it's not that. Right. It's not just that. So, and that's something also, it's a major lesson that I've learned with the work we did. It's not the end of it. It's the whole process that matters as well, that we need to see in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, I'd say for anyone, just just like you said, I'm starting to say this all the time as well. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Get on the ski hill, right?
And just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Just do it.
So
Just
good.
do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful, Virginia. Well, thank you so much for, sharing your story.
You're
Again,
very welcome.
allowing me to be a part of your story, for being an inspiration, for other professional women out there who are lost, who are stuck and not sure what to do, and being able to show them that if with a little bit of courage, being brave, imagine what could happen. And you're an example of that. Thank you for being part of my community, and for letting your light shine. We're all better for it, so thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be part of the community.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. Merci for doing this. Thank you so much.
Pas de quoi.
Yeah, thank you so much.